Sign it before breakfast gets cold, Maya. I've wasted enough years pretending you belonged here. Caleb Harrington said it like he was asking her to pass the salt. The divorce papers sat in the middle of the long marble breakfast table, right beside a white coffee cup and a silver pin his mother had already uncapped for him. Morning light poured through the tall windows of the Harrington estate, bright and clean, touching everything except the look on Maya Whitfield's face. She stood at the edge of the dining room in a soft gray sweater, her hair pulled back, her hand still resting on the stair rail, as if her body had stopped before her mind could catch up. Patricia Harrington did not even look ashamed. She lifted her teacup with 2 fingers and smiled over the rim. Caleb is being generous, dear. Some women get nothing when the fantasy ends. Across from her, Richard Harrington folded the Wall Street Journal like this was just another family decision, like firing a gardener or selling a car. Caleb leaned back in his chair, spotless in his white shirt, gold watch catching the light. We can do this quietly, he said. No drama. No embarrassment. You take the settlement, pack what's yours, and we both move on. Maya looked down at the papers. Her name was typed there in cold black ink. Maya Whitfield Harrington. 3 years of marriage reduced to a stack of pages and a signature line. Her throat tightened, but she did not let her voice shake. You planned this with your family at breakfast? Caleb sighed, already bored. Don't make it sound cruel. We're trying to be practical. Patricia gave a soft little laugh. Practical is what this family should have been from the beginning. That laugh did something to the room. It made the air smaller. Maya could hear the housekeeper pause near the kitchen doorway. She could hear the grandfather clock ticking behind her. She could hear her own heartbeat, slow and heavy, as if every part of her was asking the same question. How did I ever mistake this place for home? Caleb pushed the pen closer. Maya, you and I both know this marriage never made sense on paper. On paper, the words landed harder than he knew. Because on paper, Caleb Harrington had survived the last 3 years because doors opened for him that he never questioned. Investors took meetings he did not deserve. Banks extended credit when they should have walked away. A silent hand had kept his family name polished while his numbers bled underneath. But Caleb never asked whose hand it was. He only looked at Maya and saw a quiet woman who wore simple dresses, drove a 5-year-old car, and let his family talk over her at dinner. Maya stepped forward and picked up the pen. Patricia's smile widened. Caleb's shoulders relaxed. For one stupid second, they all thought silence meant surrender. Maya signed her name slowly. Not Harrington. Whitfield. Then she removed her wedding ring and placed it beside the papers with a small sound that made Caleb blink. You're right, she said softly. This marriage never made sense on paper. She turned to leave before the first tear could fall. Behind her, Patricia whispered, at least she knows when she's lost. But what they did not know was that Maya had not just signed the end of a marriage. She had signed the beginning of the first morning the Harrington family would lose access to everything they had been laughing on. By 7 that evening, Maya had packed exactly 1 suitcase, because there was not much in that house that had ever truly belonged to her. Caleb insisted on driving her to the final family dinner, calling it closure, but Maya knew better. Closure did not wear perfume and wait in the private dining room of an expensive steakhouse. Sloane Mercer was already there when Maya arrived, sitting beside Caleb in a cream-colored dress, smiling like she had been invited to watch a show. Patricia kissed the air near Maya's cheek and said, How brave of you to come. Brielle, Caleb's younger sister, looked Maya up and down. Where are you staying tonight? I mean, the hotels downtown can get pricey when you do not have a Harrington card. A few people at the table laughed into their wine glasses. Maya sat down slowly, her hands folded in her lap beneath the white tablecloth. Her fingers still felt strange without the ring. Caleb cleared his throat. Let us keep this civil. Civil? Maya looked at him. You served me divorce papers at breakfast. Sloane tilted her head, all sweetness and sharpened edges. At least he did not drag it out. Some women need a clean break to understand when the party is over. Patricia smiled at that, pleased. Richard ordered another bottle of wine, as if humiliation paired well with steak. For 3 years, Maya had watched this family turn cruelty into manners. They never shouted. They never slammed doors. They just smiled while making a person feel poor, small, and lucky to be tolerated. Tonight, they were louder than usual, comfortable in her supposed fall. Brielle leaned closer. I always wondered what you did all day, Maya. Caleb worked. Mother chaired committees, Dad handled investments. You just floated around the house looking thoughtful. Maya breathed in. For a second, she remembered every late night she had spent on encrypted calls, every financial report she had reviewed after Caleb fell asleep, every quiet correction that kept Harrington Capital from embarrassing itself in front of people who actually mattered. She had protected the same table that now laughed at her. Caleb set his fork down. You will be fine. The settlement is fair. Fair, Maya repeated. Patricia gave a delicate shrug. More than fair, considering you came in with nothing. The sentence hung there, ugly and polished. Even the waiter slowed near the doorway. Maya reached into her purse and took out the brass key to the Harrington estate. She placed it in the center of the table, right beside Caleb's untouched bread plate. No speech, no tears, just the small, final sound of metal against china. Caleb frowned. You can give that to the house manager. No, Maya said. I want all of you to see me return the only thing you ever thought made me valuable. For the first time that evening, nobody had a quick answer. Sloane looked at Caleb. Patricia's smile tightened. Maya stood, smoothing the front of her coat. Caleb's voice followed her. Do not be dramatic, Maya. She turned back just once. I am not being dramatic. I am being done. Then she walked out of the steakhouse alone, past the valet stand, into the cold Chicago night. Behind her, the Harringtons started laughing again, softer this time, trying to prove they were still in control. But none of them knew the key she had left on that table was the cheapest thing she had ever owned. The cold hit Maya the moment she stepped out of the steakhouse, sharp enough to clear the heat from her face. Chicago moved around her like nothing had happened. Cars slid through the wet streetlight. A couple laughed near the curb. Somewhere down the block, a man in a Cubs hoodie argued with a cab driver over the fare. The world had not stopped because the Harringtons had decided she was disposable. Maya stood beneath the awning for 1 second, breathing slowly, until the valet asked, Ma'am, do you need your car? She almost smiled. No, I will walk. Her apartment was 12 blocks away, a quiet place on the 10th floor of an older building near the river, the kind Caleb had once called charming in a sad way. He never knew she owned the entire building through a holding company. That was how little he had really known her. Inside, Maya kicked off her heels by the door and let the silence meet her honestly. No polished dining room. No Patricia laughing through her teeth. No Caleb telling her what was practical. Just hardwood floors, city lights, and the low hum of the refrigerator. For the first time all day, her hands began to shake. She pressed them flat against the kitchen counter and closed her eyes. Not because she wanted him back. That part had died somewhere between the breakfast table and the steakhouse. She shook because grief had a strange way of showing up even after humiliation. You could be done with someone and still mourn the years you gave them. After a long minute, Maya walked to the hallway closet and pulled down a navy storage box. Inside were folders Caleb had never seen, sealed letters, old board documents, and a framed photograph of her father, Lawrence Whitfield, standing in front of the first Whitfield Meridian office in Atlanta. He had been smiling in that picture, one hand in his pocket, proud but tired, the way self-made men often looked after building something no one believed they could build. Maya touched the edge of the frame. I try to keep my life simple, Dad, she whispered. I really did. Then she opened her laptop. The screen lit her face in pale blue as she typed in a password she had not used in months. Files appeared one by one. Shareholder reports, acquisition notes, board requests. A company worth more than Caleb's entire family could understand had been waiting behind her quiet name. Maya picked up her phone and called Denise Coleman. It rang twice. Maya. Denise's voice changed immediately. What happened? Maya looked at the divorce folder on the table, then at the bare place on her finger where the ring had been. He filed today. Silence. Not surprise. Just the kind of silence that comes when someone has been expecting a storm. Did he know? Denise asked. No, Maya's voice was steady now. None of them did. Denise exhaled slowly. Then I need you to say it clearly. Maya sat straighter, the city glowing behind her. It is time. On the other end, papers rustled. A chair moved. The lawyer who had known Maya since she was 19 spoke with calm, dangerous certainty. The board has been waiting for you, Ms. Whitfield. Maya closed her eyes for half a second, and when she opened them again, the woman Caleb left behind was no longer the woman sitting in that apartment. By morning, emails would move through Chicago before Caleb finished his first coffee. And for the first time, His last name would not be enough to open the door. Caleb Harrington woke up the next morning like a man who believed the worst part of his life had already been handled. His phone was on the nightstand, face down, no missed calls from Maya, no dramatic messages, no begging. That pleased him more than it should have. Sloane stood by the mirror in one of his dress shirts, sipping coffee from a mug Maya had bought at a small art fair years ago. "So," she said, watching him button his collar, "is the sad chapter officially over?" Caleb smiled without looking up. It was over before she signed. Sloane laughed softly. "Good. Your mother says the family looks cleaner without her in the picture." Cleaner. Caleb liked that word. By 8:30, he walked into Harrington Capital with his shoulders back and his expensive shoes striking the lobby floor like punctuation. Employees greeted him carefully. He accepted it as respect, not realizing some of them had already heard whispers. Upstairs, the conference room was ready for the most important deal of the year. Harrington Capital was supposed to finalize a partnership with Whitfield Meridian Group, a company so powerful that even being mentioned beside it made smaller firms look important. Caleb had bragged about it for months. He told investors he had connections. He told his father the contract would restore confidence. He told himself he had earned it. At 9 sharp, his chief financial officer, Martin Ellis, stepped in with a tablet and a face that looked wrong. "We have a problem." Caleb did not sit. "No, we do not. We have a closing call in 15 minutes. Martin swallowed. Whitfield Meridian paused the agreement overnight. The room went quiet. Caleb stared at him. Paused. "Ownership review. That is nonsense. We passed compliance." "I know." Martin turned the tablet toward him. "But final authorization was pulled back this morning." Caleb snatched it from his hand, scrolling through the email chain. Legal language. Polite phrases. Corporate frost. Then his eyes landed on one line near the bottom. "Final approval requires direct review from M. Whitfield." For half a second, he did not react. The name was too close to something ordinary, too close to someone he had already placed in the past. He frowned. "Who is M. Whitfield?" Martin looked uncomfortable. "We are trying to confirm that now." Caleb gave a sharp laugh. "Then confirm faster." He tossed the tablet onto the table. "Call their New York office. Call Atlanta. Call whoever signs checks over there." Martin did not move. "We did. They said all communication must go through Chairwoman Whitfield's office." Something cold pressed against the back of Caleb's neck, but pride stepped in before fear could make a sound. "Chairwoman," he repeated. "Fine. Give me a meeting." By noon, 2 investors had requested updates. By 1, his father called asking why the bank sounded nervous. By 2, Patricia texted him a single question. "What did you do?" Caleb stood in his glass office overlooking downtown Chicago, jaw tight, staring at the skyline he had always thought belonged to men like him. His phone buzzed again. Unknown number. He answered too fast. "This is Caleb Harrington." A calm woman's voice replied. "Mr. Harrington, this is Denise Coleman from Whitfield Meridian's legal office. Any future communication regarding your pending agreement will need written approval from Ms. Maya Whitfield." Caleb stopped breathing. Not for long. Just long enough for the city outside his window to stop looking like his. By late afternoon, Caleb had stopped smiling at messages from Sloane. His phone kept lighting up with names he usually enjoyed seeing. Bankers, board members, his father, his mother, all asking the same question in different words. What is happening with Whitfield Meridian? He had no answer that did not make him look smaller. At 5:30, Patricia called and skipped hello entirely. "We received invitations to the Meridian Foundation Gala this weekend." Caleb pinched the bridge of his nose. "Mother, I am dealing with something." "So am I," Patricia said. "Your father says half the room will be there. Governors, tech people, old money, new money, everyone. We cannot miss it." Caleb stared at the email open on his screen, the one with Maya's name sitting at the bottom like a locked door. Did the invitation say anything about Maya? Patricia laughed, dry and quick. "Maya? Please, do not start giving that girl importance because she happens to share a last name with someone useful." He wanted to believe her. He needed to. So when Saturday night came, Caleb put on a black tuxedo, picked up Sloane, and told himself the gala would fix the narrative. The Meridian Foundation Gala was held at the Langham, right along the river, where the windows caught the city lights and made Chicago look richer than it was. Outside, cameras flashed. Inside, champagne moved through the ballroom on silver trays. Patricia stepped in wearing emerald silk, chin lifted like the room had been built for her approval. Richard followed, already scanning for men with money. Brielle whispered, "This is more like it. No awkward ex-wife energy." Sloane slid her hand through Caleb's arm and smiled. "Tonight, people remember who you are." Caleb nodded, but his eyes kept searching the room. He hated that. He hated that one phone call from Denise Coleman had made him look for Maya in every doorway. Then he saw her. Not near the back. Not hiding. Maya stood beside a tall floral arrangement, wearing a simple black gown that touched the floor without begging for attention. Her hair was swept back, her earrings small, her posture quiet. She looked calm in a way that made him uneasy. Patricia saw her too and let out a soft sound of disbelief. "Well, that is bold." Brielle smirked. "Did she get lost on the way to a support group?" Sloane gave Caleb's arm a gentle squeeze before walking toward Maya, like she owned the air between them. "Maya," she said brightly, just loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "I did not expect to see you here." Maya turned. "Good evening, Sloane. Are you here with someone?" Sloane looked around, pretending concern. "Or did you just want one last look at Caleb's world?" A few faces turned. Patricia smiled into her glass. Caleb should have stopped it. He knew he should have. Instead, he stood there, silent, because silence had always been easier when Maya was the one being cut. Maya looked at Sloane, then passed her to Caleb. For a moment, something human crossed her face. Not weakness, disappointment. Then the lights dimmed, and a voice came from the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Before dinner, we are honored to welcome the woman whose leadership made tonight possible." Caleb felt the room shift. Maya did not move. The announcer continued, warm and clear. "Our chairwoman and majority owner, Ms. Maya Whitfield." The applause began before the Harrington family understood what they had just heard. Maya stepped away from Sloane, walked toward the stage, and did not look back. Caleb stood frozen under the chandelier, while Patricia's smile vanished like someone had turned off the lights inside her. Maya reached the stage with the kind of calm Caleb had mistaken for emptiness for 3 years. The applause kept rising around her, smooth and respectful, the kind of applause people gave when money, power, and reputation were all standing in the same room, wearing a black gown. She took the microphone from the host and looked out across the ballroom. Her eyes passed over senators, CEOs, donors, board members, and finally the Harrington table, where no one had touched a glass, a fork, or even a breath. "Thank you for being here tonight," Maya said. Her voice was warm, steady, and clear. Not loud. She did not need loud. "This foundation was created by my father, Lawrence Whitfield, to invest in people who were told they did not belong in rooms like this." A few guests nodded. Caleb felt Sloane's hand slip off his arm. Patricia leaned toward Richard and whispered, "Lawrence Whitfield?" Richard's face had gone pale in a way Caleb had never seen. Maya continued, "For a long time, I believed leadership meant staying invisible, listening more than I spoke, protecting people quietly, giving second chances to those who did not always deserve them." Caleb's stomach tightened. She was not looking at him, and somehow that made it worse. Behind him, Brielle whispered, "Caleb, tell me this is not real." He could not, because now the screen behind Maya showed her name in white letters beside the Whitfield Meridian logo. Maya Whitfield, chairwoman, majority owner. The ballroom changed after that. Not with shouting, not with gasps that lasted too long. Just a deep, spreading silence from everyone who suddenly understood that the woman Sloane had mocked near the flowers was not a guest hoping to be noticed. She was the reason they had all been invited. Maya spoke about scholarships, housing initiatives, small business grants, and rebuilding neighborhoods that banks had ignored. She spoke like someone who had sat in boardrooms and community centers, who knew both polished marble and cracked sidewalks. The room listened. Caleb listened too, but not because he wanted to. He listened because every sentence stripped another layer from the story he had told himself about her. When Maya finished, the applause came again, louder this time. People stood. A governor crossed the room to shake her hand. A banking executive Caleb had chased for months leaned in to speak with her like an old friend. Caleb felt smaller with every handshake she received. Patricia tried to recover first. "We should go congratulate her," she said, though her voice sounded thin. Sloane turned sharply. "Congratulate her? She let me embarrass myself." "No," Caleb said quietly, watching Maya smile at a donor. "You did that on your own. Sloane stared at him, wounded pride flashing in her eyes. But Caleb barely noticed. Denise Coleman appeared beside Maya with a leather folder, and for one terrible second, Maya glanced toward him. No anger, no tears, just recognition, like she was finally seeing the full cost of the man he had chosen to be. Then Denise leaned close and said something that made Maya nod. A few minutes later, Caleb's phone buzzed. Then Richard's. Then Patricia's. One after another, messages lit up across the Harrington table. Caleb opened his first. Harrington Capital Partnership status, suspended pending executive review. His mouth went dry. Across from him, Richard whispered, "Our credit line is tied to that deal." Patricia looked at Maya across the room, but she was no longer laughing. None of them were. And Maya had not even raised her voice. By midnight, the video of Maya standing under the Meridian Foundation lights had already moved through Chicago faster than any press release Caleb could have paid for. Someone had filmed Sloane's little comment near the flowers. Someone else had captured Patricia's smile disappearing the second Maya's name was announced. By 1 a.m, the clip had reached investors, private bankers, and half the people Caleb had spent years trying to impress. Caleb sat in the back seat of his car outside the Langham, refreshing his phone like the screen might eventually offer him mercy. It did not. Martin Ellis called at 1:15. His voice sounded tired and frightened. "Caleb, the bank wants a meeting at 8. Caleb closed his eyes. "Tell them we are fine." "We are not fine." The Whitfield partnership was listed as projected collateral for the expansion loan. Without it, they can reprice everything. Then give them another asset. Martin went quiet. There is no clean asset big enough. Caleb opened his eyes and stared through the tinted window at the river, black and cold under the bridges. For the first time in years, Chicago did not look like opportunity. It looked like a bill coming due. His father called next. No greeting, just panic dressed as anger. "What did you do to that woman?" Caleb's jaw tightened. "Do not start. Do not start. Your mother is upstairs crying in a hotel bathroom because every person in that ballroom now thinks we are fools." Caleb almost laughed, but nothing came out. Maybe she should have thought about that before laughing at Maya all week. Richard went silent. That silence was new. In the Harrington family, blame always moved downward. Tonight, there was nowhere clean to put it. At 2:30, Sloane texted him. "Are we still leaving together?" He looked at the message and felt nothing but exhaustion. For months, he had mistaken her admiration for love. Now even her question sounded like calculation. By sunrise, the damage had become numbers. Harrington Capital's pending commitments froze. 2 investors requested withdrawal options. A lender moved their account into review. Caleb arrived at the office unshaven, still in last night's shirt beneath his coat, and found Martin waiting with a stack of printed emails. "You need to see this." Caleb took the first page. It was a formal notice from Whitfield Meridian. All partnership benefits, introductions, credit support, and executive sponsorship connected to Harrington Capital were suspended pending full review. He flipped to the second page, then the third. Each one removed something he had thought belonged to him. A banking relationship, a private investor introduction, a board recommendation, a debt guarantee letter he had never even realized Maya had helped secure. His hand tightened around the paper. She did all this? Martin looked at him carefully. She stopped doing it. That was worse. Caleb sank into his chair. The office around him, the glass walls, the skyline, the leather desk, suddenly felt borrowed. Across town, Maya sat in a quiet conference room at Whitfield Meridian, reading the same notices with Denise beside her. "He has called 17 times, Denise said. Maya looked at the phone face down on the table. It buzzed again, lighting Caleb's name across the screen. She did not touch it. Her voice was low, not cruel, just final. Let him learn what silence feels like when it is not weakness. Caleb showed up at Whitfield Meridian just after 10 in the morning, wearing the same confidence he used to wear into every room. Only now it did not fit right. The receptionist behind the marble desk looked up with polite calm. "Do you have an appointment, Mr. Harrington?" He hated that she knew his name and still asked. "Maya will see me." The receptionist did not blink. "Ms. Whitfield is in meetings." Caleb leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Tell her it is personal." A few minutes later, Denise Coleman stepped out of the elevator in a navy suit, holding a folder against her side. She did not smile. "Mr. Harrington, I need to talk to my wife." Denise's eyes cooled. "Your ex-wife?" The correction landed in front of him like a locked door. Caleb swallowed his pride because pride had become too expensive overnight. Please. 5 minutes. Denise studied him for a moment, then turned toward the elevator. This way. The ride to the 48th floor was silent. Caleb stared at his reflection in the mirrored wall and barely recognized himself. His tie was straight, his shoes were polished, but his face looked like a man who had been awake with consequences. When the doors opened, he stepped into a conference room with a long glass table and a view of the river cutting through the city below. Maya stood near the window, dressed in a cream blouse and dark slacks, her hair smooth, her hands relaxed at her sides. No wedding ring, no trembling, no trace of the woman he had expected to control. Maya, he said, and for the first time in years, her name sounded careful in his mouth. She turned. Caleb. He tried to smile. It failed. I should have known there was more to your family. You should have told me. Maya looked at him quietly. That is your apology? His jaw tightened. I am saying we both made mistakes. Denise opened the folder and placed a document on the table. Maya did not move toward it. No, Caleb. You made choices. I made excuses for them. He looked at the document. Termination of strategic sponsorship. His chest tightened. You cannot do this. Harrington Capital employs people. Families depend on us. I know, Maya said. That is why payroll protections are already in place for non-executive staff. Your employees will not suffer because of your decisions. That stopped him. He had come prepared to accuse her of being cruel. She had removed even that from his hands. What about my family? He asked, softer now. Maya's eyes held his. Your family laughed while you handed me divorce papers. They laughed while Sloan tried to humiliate me in public. They laughed because they thought I had nothing. Caleb stepped closer to the table. They did not know who you were. Yes, they did, Maya said. They knew I was your wife. That should have been enough. The room went still. Caleb looked down, and for one painful second, he saw it clearly. Not the company, not the money. The woman he had trained himself not to value until the world valued her for him. Maya slid the original divorce papers beside the termination notice. His signature was still there, confident and cruel. You wanted this ending clean, she said. So I am making it clean. Caleb's voice cracked around the edges. Is there any way back? Maya looked at him, not with hatred, but with something worse for him. Peace. You did not divorce a poor woman, Caleb. You divorced the only person in that family who ever protected you. Denise placed a pen on the table. This time, Caleb was the one staring at a signature line while someone else waited in silence. Caleb signed because there was nothing left to argue with. The pen moved slowly across the page, his hands stiff, his face gray under the conference room lights. For once, no one from his family was there to speak for him, excuse him, or turn his mistake into someone else's fault. When he finished, Denise collected the documents without ceremony. Maya did not smile. That surprised him most. He had expected revenge to look louder. He had expected her to enjoy watching him break. But Maya only looked tired, like a woman finally putting down something heavy she should never have been asked to carry. What happens now? Caleb asked. Maya glanced toward the city beyond the glass. Now you go home and tell them the truth. By the next afternoon, the Harrington family sat in a law office 3 blocks from their own bank, listening to consequences arrive in complete sentences. Patricia sat rigid in a navy suit, her pearl necklace resting against her throat like it had lost its shine. Richard kept rubbing his forehead while the attorney explained which accounts were under review, which guarantees no longer applied, and which privileges had depended on relationships Maya had quietly protected. Brielle stared at the table, silent for the first time in her life. Sloan was there too, but not for long. Halfway through the meeting, she slipped off the engagement ring Caleb had given her and set it beside his folder. I did not sign up for this, she whispered. Caleb looked at her, almost amused by the honesty of it. No, he said quietly. You signed up for what you thought I had. She left without looking back. Patricia watched the door close, then turned on Caleb. How could you not know? He could have blamed Maya. He could have blamed Sloan, the board, bad timing, anything. The old Caleb would have. Instead, he looked at his mother and said, because I never thought she mattered enough to ask. No one answered that. Some truths do not need an argument. Across town, Maya walked through a community business center funded by the Meridian Foundation. A young mother behind a bakery counter thanked her for the grant that kept her shop open. A college student shook her hand, and said his scholarship letter had made his grandmother cry. Maya listened, smiled, and felt something loosen inside her. Not happiness exactly. Something quieter. Freedom, maybe. Later that evening, she returned to her apartment by the river. The divorce papers were gone. The ring was gone. The house key was gone. In their place, on the kitchen counter, sat her father's photograph and a fresh set of board materials for Monday morning. Her phone buzzed once. Caleb's name appeared on the screen. "I am sorry." Maya read the message, then set the phone down without replying. Not because she hated him. Hate still tied a person to the past. She simply had nothing left to prove to a man who only recognized her value after losing access to it. Outside, Chicago glowed in the distance, loud, imperfect, alive. Maya stood by the window and let the silence feel different this time. Not lonely, not ashamed. Hers. And somewhere in the city, the Harrington family finally understood what Maya had known all along. You should never measure a woman by how quietly she leaves a room. Sometimes the quietest exit is not defeat. Sometimes it is the moment she stops asking to be seen and starts returning to who she was before they taught her to shrink.